I'm Riva, and I'm here with my hackathon partner, Henry.
Hello.
Henry,
Today we're just going to be talking about ways and frameworks to essentially bring Ergo to students, specifically college-age students.
both of us are students at Cornell, and we are, really excited about the Ergo ecosystem and really are just thinking about how could we grow the user base, but particularly on college campuses where students are always thinking about newer ways to innovate. And at Cornell, we have a rather large blockchain developer group. And we think it would be really cool to sort of see how we could bring Ergo's transformative solutions into the hands of the youth that could sort of help be the leaders of Ergo someday. And we just have a couple of thoughts and we want to share with you guys for our hackathon presentation.
So to start things off, we were thinking about running stuff like developer workshops. So these would take place at university blockchain clubs or just on college campuses. And these could also be partnered with in-person hackathons, sponsored by companies, and the companies would be able to use these events as a recruitment event while also bringing more kids to the hackathon. If you offer cash prizes, Ergo-based prizes, or just if you have, the companies there, I think it would draw a lot of kids in. It would get a lot of kids interested. And just like Riva was saying, at schools like Cornell, there's like such a high population of kids that are really, really do care about new technologies emerging in this ecosystem and would love to learn from the people that built it.
Absolutely. Adding on to that idea, I think a lot of sort of in-person events at first can seem sort of daunting in terms of obviously the labor and time and effort that goes into these. But you do have folks, there is one of the leaders of Ergo who has a connection to Cornell as well as a lot of student groups that you can leverage. And I think that's been a really helpful avenue for a lot of other protocols, as they've been able to get students who are willing to put on these events on behalf of a protocol, host it, organize it, and then also draw in community members from the specific org. And so a lot of these events end up being a lot less challenging and intense to plan on the protocol end, and sort of a lot of the labor can fall onto student groups. And I think that's a pretty unique avenue because you're obviously going to reach people that already have a particular goal and interest in the crypto space. But I think before we dive more into sort of in-person events, we can talk about at a higher level, sort of what me and Henry were thinking a lot about was how can we make the onboarding process into the protocol more accessible? And obviously, whenever you're looking at any sort of new form of technology, there's a huge learning curve that comes, right? And so we've obviously seen that with crypto. And I think the learning curve still is quite steep for those that come from a slightly less technical background. So what we sort of did is brainstormed a couple of ideas that we thought would be effective to sort of just help ease in that process. And so one of our first ideas is that whenever we download a wallet, so say I'm using Nautilus, we think it'd be great to have a small bite-sized learn to earn lesson, right? So a learn to earn lesson is pretty similar to how Polygon, you've seen Avalabs do it, you see Solana do it, and just have a pretty quick 5 to 7 minute lesson that sort of lightens the onboarding process and incentivizes obviously the community to also join by enabling them to be token holders. But just having a quick quiz or a very easy onboarding guide whenever they first download the Chrome extension as well, we think that can be really helpful. And the questions that they have can be super basic, right? But just sort of highlight sort of the importance of the Ergo community and also highlight the strength of it, right? When there's a lot of different communities and protocols out there, I think it can be pretty hard to sort of differentiate between the pack. And so what me and Henry were thinking about was just sort of highlighting a lot of the sort of key components of Ergo, right? And I think for what we really love about Ergo is how obviously it's extremely decentralized in a far much so capacity than other orgs that we see at a similar level. And so sort of highlighting that throughout the questions would be great. And so some of our questions were like, how does Ergo enable freedom of participation, especially for miners and builders? And there's a lot of different ways Ergo does this, right? Like flexible configuration of nodes, and proof of work that needs less than a small snippet of data, easily templatizable with higher level languages, which is super cool because you can literally use the Ergo network in Python and other languages that are taught at school, and also has a pretty nuanced Bitcoin like UTXO model. And I just think highlighting some of these points could be really useful. Some other questions we thought about was like, what's the ergocentric bridge called? Obviously, it's Rosen, but it'd be sort of fun to have that as a question. Henry, do you want to present your question?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking that, kind of while you're diving into this, you could also kind of explain, where it comes from, kind of pay tribute to those ideas. So you could also just like, ask questions about, where does the name Rosen Bridge come from or what inspired that name? Obviously, the Einstein-Rosen Bridge. You could also, ask stuff like how much of Ergo's token allocation is in the hands of the public. And all of these kind of questions. I mean, I know Coinbase did the same thing with
Yeah.
a lot of their smaller cryptocurrencies. They would offer $5 or $5 worth of a cryptocurrency if you took like a small lesson and I believe passed a test. And I think that was widely successful because while it would also get people interested in it, because obviously if some people have some sort of financial stake in that cryptocurrency, they would be a lot more interested in it. And then the whole process, if you're teaching them throughout that process about that new technology, that they might see something that clicks for them, or they might just, have a greater appreciation and then, tell their friends, which is what this is all about. And so, by doing these sort of outreach projects, it would really help educate people, with an incentive. And especially if you focus these ideas kind of at the college age students who are just, learning these technologies themselves and who are, just a wealth of ideas for this space. We just think it would really grow Ergo's sort of standing with these students and make it much more popular idea and technology. Riva, do you want to talk about our next idea?
Yeah. So something else that I think is super cool about the Ergo ecosystem is how you have a really cool Sigma Knots program. But I think this could be really cool if we sort of launched and unraveled this for college students. And so essentially have sort of like ambassadors on campus that sort of approach builders and sort of try to facilitate um, just kind of a movement and more interaction within using Ergo compared to other chains that people are using. And I think that ties in also pretty heavily with that first idea that Henry presented, which was about, right, kind of having developer workshops, specifically a hackathon. But I think even running developer workshops, I think is pretty easy and a little bit less labor intensive of a task. And you can partner with the 30 blockchain clubs that already exist to run this developer workshop. And a lot of clubs also have in like 4 credit in-person classes, which is pretty cool. And so here at Cornell, like, we run an intro to blockchain course. It's 2 credits. It's taught every semester. I think it would be awesome if Ergo went in and helped, like, either it could be Kushti or one of the other lead developers of Ergo that went in and just presented some of their thought process and research. I think that'd be awesome. Another idea that we sort of had was creating sort of a similar tutorial system that BuildSpace had. And so BuildSpace used to be like a crypto learning accelerator that was online, and they had a really awesome tutorial on how to sort of create unique interfaces where people can request for test Ethereum, test Solana, using like faucets like Goerli, and then connect with MetaMask. And I think that was a really awesome set of online tutorials because it helped someone with very rudimentary understanding of code understand how can they use a smart contract to send fake money, right? So in essence, it doesn't cost any money, but to sort of understand how can we exchange value through lines of code. And I think that's obviously not a relatively new concept, but I think is really cool and makes you show people the capabilities and enable them to do that. And I think Ergo's existing developer docs are awesome, but I think sometimes just parsing through paragraphs and paragraphs can be a little bit daunting for those that are new. And so I think if we have a small video series, that'd be really helpful. Another idea that we had was obviously Ergo's decentralized nature is super unique, like with 96% of Ergo's tokens are held by the public, right? And so I think that has to be showcased a lot more. We're not totally sure what would sort of be the best avenue to showcase that, but I think that would be like a huge component within like the Learn to Earn quiz, for example, and just sort of throughout the other initiatives as well. Another idea that we had was offering builder scholarships. A lot of companies do this. So like Senior Protocol always has relatively small learning scholarships that they offer. But what I think would be cool is if Ergo, as you guys always do awesome developer updates on Sundays, maybe you highlight student builders and you maybe provide smaller scholarships, just to sort of promote the ecosystem, but also like incentivize students to continue building on this chain in particular. And I think also just obviously sort of cultivates like an environment where people feel driven to want to actively contribute as well. And then one of our last ideas was just sort of hosting office hour styled dev support conversations on Discord. I think oftentimes a lot of DAOs, obviously, like you don't get to talk to a lot of the folks. You don't really know that much about them besides from what you see on Discord. And I think sometimes people sort of miss that interaction component. And so an idea that we had was just sort of having an open forum discussion space where people could sort of join on Discord where they don't have to really share that many aspects of their identity and have it just an avenue to sort of ask them questions, meet others that care about the Ergo community and help bring it to life. But I've really loved getting to watch your developer updates that you guys release on Sundays. And I do think that like Ergo also existingly has just done an amazing job kind of growing an organic community. And so we're just excited to see sort of where the Ergo ecosystem goes. And we're obviously excited also to just get to see what happens in the future and see how we can help out as college students ourselves.
Yeah, and so, just to kind of summarize, I think, what you guys want is obviously to develop this technology, get this technology in the hands of as many people as possible. And by taking these initiatives and, focusing on, whether it's the office hours style dev support, or it's like the hackathons or the ambassadorships or whatever it chooses to be. I think these initiatives would really help bring awareness to the people that are going to be dominating this space in the coming years. So these were just kind of our top ideas. Hopefully, you guys took something away from this. But like Reva said, we're very excited to see where Ergo goes and to use it for ourselves. So thank you very much, and I believe that's all.
Thank you guys for listening.